colour that kids would love.
Isn't it just?
And there you are, Bill. Terrifyingly toxic sweets.
Mama,
Well, I suppose if you were going to die from TB or cholera by the age of 40 anyway,
They got you before the rest
This stuff is aimed at kids, and yet do not touch, toxic, harmful by inhalation, not to be used, sucked or chewed by children or animals. Keep away from food, drink, and animal foodstuffs. And people tried it, and I guess that's the big difference. These days, these things have to be tested.
Yes.
You know, until people are sure that they're safe to use.
So that's it. Without regulation, some manufacturers were willing to do anything to sell stuff.
So colourful foods sometimes came at a hefty price in the era before E-numbers. The often unscrupulous world of food colouring changed in the mid-19th century with a revolution in the science of colourings. It started when the textile industry began embracing a new discovery, a way of making dyes synthetically, and it soon spread to the food industry. And these dyes paved the way for many of the E-number colours that we use today. Like this, E110 Sunset Yellow, that's used in certain energy drinks. Or E124 Ponzo 4R, that's found in some canned raspberries and jelly. But the source of these dyes was something quite unexpected. It was this: coal. But like me, you're probably wondering how on earth you get a rainbow of glorious food colours from a dirty chunk of prehistoric wood.
You just break it down.
But hard stuff as well.
You know what?
Get a
Sorry.
smaller
I'm
bit.
going to get a smaller, flatter bit. Ridiculous. All right. So now, if you could quickly turn the gas on.
Back at school in the science lab.
So what was found was that if you actually heated up coal fairly gently, not enough to actually set fire to it, just warm it up, then what you would get was a whole witch's brew of liquids that would distill out of it.
Liquids from coal. I mean, I didn't
Absolutely.
quite expect that, did you?
And you would start to see that there's a vapor that's actually condensing up the tube. And those are, in fact, a whole series of quite volatile compounds.
This condensation isn't just water. It's a whole mixture of different chemical compounds. These compounds can be isolated, and when they're refined and reacted together, they can form a whole range of colours.
That is absolutely mad.
What you're getting is this dye forming right in front of your eyes.
That's real alchemy for me.
By changing the little components that we have, we can completely tune the color. So we can make these yellow, we can make these green, we can make, take your pick, whatever you want.
Chemist as artist. I like that. Is this one of these very stable dyes that you're talking about, that's more stable than natural colouring?
Well, this is certainly one of the sort of rock-like synthetic dyes called the azo dye.
On one level, it's brilliant and fascinating that you can get all of this rainbow of colours from something as fundamental and prehistoric as coal. On another level, there just seems something odd. There's such a disconnect between coal and food, and I think that's worrying. It's unsettling. We don't eat coal. To extract something from it and put it in food, it just seems it's oddly unnatural and oddly wrong.
Nowadays, these dyes mainly come from an equally bizarre source: petroleum. And a question mark has been raised over some synthetic E-numbers. A recent study found that there could be a link between a small group of 6 synthetic colours and hyperactivity in some children. Amongst these was the now infamous E102 tartrazine yellow. The results of the study weren't enough for regulators to ban them, but food manufacturers in Britain are removing them from their food in response to people's concerns. But colour is just one of the E-number tools that manufacturers can use to get you to change the way that you think about food. Obviously, a huge amount of the pleasure of eating comes from the taste of food on our tongues. And the next group of these are the big guns in the E-number armoury. They're the 18 flavour enhancers like these, which directly target our taste buds by improving and intensifying the flavour that's already in our food. These flavour enhancers include this: E621,
monosodium glutamate, or MSG. And it's used quite a bit in Asian food, and it's caused quite a lot of controversy because people complain of headaches or even crippling stomach pains after eating it. The problem's even got its own name. It's called Chinese restaurant syndrome. Now, I want to find out how MSG works and whether or not it really deserves its notoriety. Now, we went round and knocked on the doors of loads of Chinese restaurants and said, can we talk to you about MSG? And everyone went, no. There seems to be a real sort of shame attached to this product, which is really interesting because it is used so much. The only person I could find to talk to me about it was a friend of mine called Jun Tanaka, and I've convinced him to tell us how to cook with MSG.
June currently runs a French restaurant, and he's never used MSG at work. But he grew up in Japan, where his mother would often use it in her cooking. So what does he have to say about this notorious ingredient?
That's a dodgy-looking packet. It really is, isn't it? When I was growing up, my mother used to have a shaker of that beside the salt and pepper pot, and she would put it in pretty much everything.
You kind of put a little bit of this on top of your food?
Oh, no. You do it while you're cooking. You put that on practically anything, and I think, apart from puddings, it makes it taste good.
But how can this white powder really make food taste better? June rustles up a delicious butternut squash soup.
So, you ready for this?
Yeah, I am.
So, should we have a little taste of it first? That is really nice. So, this is going to be almost overwhelmingly nice.
How could an E number, E621 monosodium glutamate, possibly improve the work of a master chef?
Okay,
you ready for this?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, it's very fulfilling.
You know what it does in this particular recipe? It makes it more of a complete feel to in your mouth. A complete. Does that make sense? It makes
it actually does.
complete.
There is a sort of roundness to it.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to describe these things, isn't it? But I think you're right. They are two very different soups now. That one has got all the flavour, but there's a taste. There's something at the heart of this one which this other one doesn't have. Do you think the one with MSG tastes better than the one without?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It does feel more of a rounded flavour.
Okay.
It just feels more complete in flavour.
So MSG clearly can be a useful ingredient in the kitchen. But why do some people say that it causes them digestive problems and headaches? When you dissolve MSG on the tongue, the sodium splits from the glutamate almost immediately, and it's absorbed by your body in exactly the same way as the sodium from salt, leaving behind what many people believe is the problem, the glutamate. But this glutamate is exactly the same as that found in a whole range of natural ingredients. Food scientist Audrey Dean explains.
People don't realise that there's actually glutamate in a lot of foods that we eat every day. And the body doesn't distinguish between monosodium glutamate and glutamate. We use it in exactly the same way, we taste it in exactly the same way, and so it is essentially the same. One of the highest concentrations of glutamate is actually in Parmesan.
We eat Parmesan cheese, and the glutamate in that is exactly the same. Our body processes it in exactly the same way as MSG, the white powder that is tipped into processed food.
That's correct.
These all look like very natural, pure foods, don't they?
Well, they are. Broccoli, naturally occurring glutamate. Mushrooms, naturally occurring glutamate. Maybe that's why mushrooms taste so good in vegetarian food.
Oh.
But if you get glutamates in everything from mushrooms to Parmesan cheese, does E621 monosodium glutamate really deserve its terrible reputation? Audrey and I decide to see if an extreme physical reaction to MSG, known as Chinese restaurant syndrome, is actually due to the MSG that you get in a lot of Chinese food, or whether the natural glutamate in foods can also be to blame. These four people say that MSG causes them all kinds of trouble, and they think they're about to face their worst nightmare.
We've brought you here to a restaurant to eat a Chinese meal. This is probably the sort of food that you've been avoiding for a little while. So I apologise for that. How do you feel about that? Yeah, that's why we're here. Okay. Enjoy. Bon appetit.
Ladies first.
What they don't know is that this meal has been specially prepared so that it has absolutely no E621 MSG in it at all. But it does have ingredients that naturally contain glutamates.
Do you not find it grim?
I'm actually panicking.
Well, why is it so dreadful?
They're having trouble eating the whole lot.
Yeah. I would just be really paranoid as it tastes really like chemically.
Even though there isn't any MSG, it isn't long before those Chinese restaurant syndrome symptoms start to appear.
We're struggling, aren't we, team?
I don't know if it's smell or the fact like it's the taste in my mouth, but it's like starting to give me a headache.
Are these the normal symptoms that you'd feel after having MSG?
It has to be, because I haven't felt this uncomfortable for a very, very long time.
But these symptoms can't be caused by MSG. There isn't any in the meal, so it's almost certainly the natural glutamates. And to check that it's not just a psychological reaction to Chinese food, I'm sending 5 people who also say that they have problems with MSG to an Italian restaurant.
Take your coats off, you can relax a little bit now. So, do you like Italian food?
Yes.
Yeah? Everyone likes Italian food. We're going to bring you a meal, and we're going to ask you what you think about it. It's all part of our controlled experiment to find out what your reactions are to the food that you're given. Okay? All right, yeah. Oh, here we go.
Again, the meal has no MSG, just natural glutamates.
What's that? Scotch, no, it's not Parmesan. It's gin. Scotch Parmesan. I wouldn't normally order something like this, but it's quite.
We gave our Italian diners video diary cameras, and just a few hours later, 4 out of 5 of them showed symptoms that they associate with eating MSG.
I've got very bad wind pains.
Felt uneasiness in my arms and hands, which I normally do when I eat Chinese food.
Been doubled up with wind.
I just feel very sick.
Ya volvemos con E-Numbers.